Hello! Today we're going to be looking at the motorcycles that you can own in Cyberpunk. As of patch 2.3, there are now 12 of them, and they're divided into 3 different models. You have the Nazare, which is the fastest bike around town, the Kusanagi variants and the Muramasa being the fastest bikes in a straight line, and the Apollo bikes, which are just kinda slow. This is my track that I'm using to test the lap times. It is in the northern area of the map. Let's get into it, starting with the Apollo. The Apollo comes in 3 different variants, where 2 of them are the same. You have the original Apollo that has the box on the back, and you have the Scorpion Apollo. These 2 are performance-wise identical. One you get through quests, the other you can just buy, but these are the slowest motorcycle in the game that you can own, at least around my testing track. And the fact that they're slow does not mean that they were the easiest to drive. With both of these bikes, I found it was difficult to understand where the engine was in the RPM range because the bikes are pretty quiet, and it was difficult to determine the braking point in order to min-max the speed through corners. That's less of an issue with the next model of the Apollo, the 650S. This version has a 5 horsepower increase, which does make it faster around the track, but more importantly, as a driving experience, the engine is louder. Because of that increase in sound, it's easier to understand where the vehicle is in the rev range, and it was easier to determine braking points in order to maintain rev range so that the vehicle wouldn't just automatically downshift too much and kill the speed through the corner. Out of all the versions of the Apollo, the 650S is my favorite. However, driving it for a prolonged period of time, the sound can get a little bit annoying. Next up, we're going to be looking at the Kusanagi motorcycles and their variants. We have the Akashita, the Peacekeeper, and the CT3X. All 3 of these motorcycles have identical performance, and that's surprising considering each of them have a different weight. The Peacekeeper is the lightest at 772, and the CT3X is the heaviest at 820. But that doesn't seem to actually affect lap times. All 3 of these lap times were extremely close to each other. So you could say my motorcycle skills in this game are pretty ugly, but at least they're consistent, and for the sake of lap times, that's very helpful. That being said, to me, I think the weights represent more of the visual appearance of the motorcycle rather than a statistical performance value. If weight did play a factor, then the difference between the Peacekeeper and the CT3X should be a lot larger. However, the lap times that I posted, they were basically the same lap time. These are your fastest straight line top speed motorcycles. However, they perform quite poorly in the corners. Every time it goes through a corner, it feels like it is always down on power after the turn. The interesting thing about these 3 variants is that the Peacekeeper is the one with the louder engine, and because of that, that makes it the easiest one to understand and control. However, my fastest lap time was with the heaviest motorcycle, which was the CT3X. In terms of visual appearance, this is my favorite out of the 3. I prefer the sound of the Peacekeeper, but with any of these 3 motorcycles, it really is pick the one that's your favorite because their performance is identical. Which cannot be said about the next variant of the Kusanagi we're going to look at, which is the Muramasa. The Muramasa has 5 horsepower more, and because of that, it has a faster lap time. Around my track, the Muramasa is faster by about 1.2 seconds, and that's only because of the power. The handling dynamics of this bike is very similar to the others, if not exactly the same. However, if you want the fastest version of this kind of top speed motorcycle, the Muramasa is the one to pick. Furthermore, you can customize this bike at the time that you order it. Regardless of how you order it, it'll have the same horsepower and the same weight. Thankfully, that means you can pick the parts that you want without having to worry about optimizing for performance. So pick whatever is your favorite and build the bike the way you want. Next, we're going to look at the Nazare. There are 5 different models to choose from. This is the fastest bike around my testing track and probably fastest bike around Night City. The 5 models that you have are the Itsumade, the default Nazare, Kobold, Jackie's Arch, and Racer. I'm not sure if weight affects lap times, however, Racer is the lightest weight bike and it also clocked in the fastest lap time. So if you're looking for the fastest version of this motorcycle, I would recommend the Racer, but the lap times are so close, I'm not 100% convinced that weight plays a factor, but maybe it does. The reason why the Nazare is the fastest bike around my testing track is because it is a lot more forgiving in the corners. With the way the bikes handle in this game, it's difficult to judge the braking zones and the rear end wants to slide mid-corner. However, the Nazare is forgiving in the fact that it's quick to re-establish grip after a slide, and it's better at putting its power down than the other motorcycles, giving you a better corner exit speed. Because of that, I think that this motorcycle is probably the best motorcycle around Night City, even though it doesn't have the highest top speed for motorcycles. The way it handles around corners and deals with unpredictable traffic, I think could be a massive benefit if you wanted to use motorcycles as transportation around Night City. Alrighty, and with that, I think that's all I have for you guys. Thank you very much for watching. To close out this video, we're going to be doing the full lap from the fastest motorcycle around my track, which is the Nazare Racer. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!